Hi guys, welcome to Celeb Villa SA, where you get the latest news on all things trending and newsworthy. Now, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to hit that bell so you never miss any of my uploads. The boys from Open Chat, Sino and Mto, find themselves in trouble. One of the ladies who was a guest on their show has called them out for sexualizing everything she had to say. The award winners have often found themselves being a topic when it comes to just overly sexualizing certain topics which need not be seen in that light. Gutle has gone on to expose the whole team, even leaking some of their personal conversations that they had on WhatsApp.
Open Chat's podcast producer allows his hosts to disrespect and sexualize their guests for views. And I said what I said. I recently filmed a podcast with Open Chats and it was the worst experience of my entire existence. Anything I say on this video will be supported by the relevant pictures, screenshots, and VNs necessary. Please understand this video is not for sympathy. I take full accountability for my actions and agreeing to be on this podcast, but I do not take any accountability for being sexualized and disrespected like I was on that podcast. They did whatever they needed to do when uploading that podcast, so I'll do whatever I need to do to defend myself. And I genuinely hope this video is the only one. This is not what my page is about, but I had to make this video. Since they were given the full platform to upload that video and not remove the necessary content that I asked the producer to, I will be exposing everything that happened on that podcast. But the main reason for this video is the sexualizing that podcast does to the guests, and it's pathetic and needs to stop. I was going to not film this video. I was going to lay everything to rest after they pump out new content, but I realized I'm so against sexualization and I've experienced it a lot in the past, and me not speaking on it would literally kill me because it's all I ever preach, that women need to stop being sexualized regardless of how they look, what they say, and what you think of them. You as a male have no right to sexualize a female. I don't think you have any ground to sexualize any woman, and it says a lot about your character. Shortly after I finished my exams, my friend and I were just, catching breath of air around Hatfield, getting food, walking around, just appreciating us finishing exams. And we walked past the drama club, and this producer approached me. He asked me if I do podcasts. I said no, but I said I'll be open to it, but I don't like the podcast these days because they're really messy and they don't speak about intellectual things. I didn't know of the podcast then. He's like, no, we're currently filming, come in and sit in and see how you feel about it. I'm like, okay, we're done with, exams, so why not? The producer then pleaded me to be on his show. After showing me a clip on YouTube, I said, no, you guys are a bit too messy, but I'll sit in and listen. And it's like, no, okay, come watch 2 behind the scenes and then tell me how you feel afterwards. I agreed. I came with my friend for her to help me analyze the situation. And then after the first behind the scenes, I told him, this is a bit too messy for me and I appreciate the work you guys are doing. All the best, but I don't want to do this. After us watching the first behind the scenes, the producer pleaded with me to join his podcast. I told him, I appreciate your guys' work and congrats on the award, but I would not have any substance to provide what you guys are talking about because they're a bit too messy for me, and I don't like those type of conversations. They're a bit too personal. He's like, no, as long as you stand your ground, that's all we need. He's like, please come watch the second behind the scenes and then tell me how you feel afterwards. Then I agreed, but I realized, this is how he probably gets his guests, and he's just as messy as his hosts, and he hides behind being a good guy with morals. After a couple of days, I realized that I should stop beating myself up about it. I made a mistake by agreeing, and we were doing nothing at that time, and sitting in and listening in, wasn't harmful. It was just my mistake to have allowed someone to sway me into a decision I was never gonna make to begin with. Now that I think of it, I actually still don't understand why he pushed me so much to be on the podcast, but I still don't understand why he wanted me to be on his podcast so badly. I'm literally an average Joe just living life. I mind my own, I do what I need to do. So still like a question mark, but nonetheless, I take full accountability for being on that podcast. On the second shoot, he even got us food and drinks, but how pretentious, I say till now. And I invited a different friend because I wanted a different opinion if I should do it or not. Even after the second behind the scenes, I did not confirm anything, but the other producer asked us our opinion on this show. I told him it was the more calm and interesting show. I was more invested than knowing that I would have known any information that they said, because I genuinely feel that I'm more disconnected with current affairs. I like being out of the loop. It just gives me a sense of peace. So I told him I don't think this is also a good fit for me, because I wouldn't pump out any content for you guys. But even the other one is too messy, so I'm not sure about all of this. And that's where we left it, and he knows this. Like I said, nothing was confirmed, and I remember this very clearly. Still don't know why he pushed me so much to be on the podcast, but nonetheless, time goes by, and he sends me a VN telling me that told his team that I'm coming, and it's done and dusted. I'll play the voice note now.
Let's meet the drama. I just want to say, so yeah, if you're gonna be going home, please don't go home on the Tuesday, because I already told the team like your game and whatnot. So that's done and dusted. So
he didn't even tell me that he confirmed with his team that I'm coming. And done and dusted, everything was done and dusted by who? Like, who did you confirm with? But cool. The whole production knew I was coming, and I felt so bad because me not going would make him a liar, but I guess I was nice to the wrong person. I even ignored his voice notes, and then he called after, and I said it on the phone. I'm like, I don't appreciate you confirming things without me. He proceeded to say this is why he invited me to the behind the scenes for me to see. I'm like, me looking was not my confirmation. Not once verbally did I say I will be on the podcast. I was just looking. I was invited. Didn't agree. But because he seemed like a nice and accommodating person, I finally agreed. And I told him, you know what, I refuse to speak about messy things. And he was like, as long as you stand your ground, you'll be fine. And honestly, you guys can say it's still my choice. Like I said, I take accountability, but I didn't want to paint him as a liar to his team because he was so nice and accommodating and seemed like a nice guy. I learned a lot about being humbled again, because most of the times I'm not swayed. No is a no. But then I realized that I actually needed to be humbled and get back on the track again. Not everyone has your best interest at heart. I met a lot of nice people on set, and I realized a part of me that innocent people, hardworking people have planned for me to be there without me knowing. So how could I say no? But like he said, that it wouldn't be messy as long as I stood my ground and I trusted him. And I take full accountability in my mistake, and I forgave myself, but a wrong is a wrong, and I'll speak about it regardless of any mistake that I did. I can take as much as accountability for being on the show, but clearly the producer has no backbone. He allows his host to disrespect and sexualize the guest anyhow, just for views. That's all he cares about. So then I film. The podcast happened, and when I left those doors, everything just went black. I called so many friends. I was like, I have so much regret. I messaged a lot of my friends that knew I was going on this. I'm like, no, I hate this. I should have never done this. Even when I was shooting, I invited a different friend because I needed all these opinions. And she told me that there was a point in time where she left the shoot and went outside because she couldn't believe how the host was sexualizing me. Even the producer knows this. Never in my life have I ever felt so miserable and empty after leaving a place. I felt like my energy was just taken away from me. I felt so miserable. One of the events, I told my friends that I felt like this was pure sabotage because the producer turned a blind eye when I was being sexualized. Go watch the podcast. The host, Sino, was pulling out sexual content out of the smallest things, I would say. There was a point where I told him my nickname and he had a sexual connotation to it. The producer himself told me how he was in utter disbelief of what was happening during the show. There are different segments where he sexualized me, and you can go watch the podcast to see this. We're innocently talking about how, certain people hide behind their sexuality to achieve certain things. And I related on a story and I spoke about Tatrapi, and he goes on and speaks about how my boobs stand up when I took off my shirt. Not once did I provide any substance for him to sexualize me like that. Another segment, we speak about me being single for 2 years, and it goes about how it's tight now. I'll show you the video.
I can explain that.
And it goes more smaller.
It's fine. It's fine. The next person will be like,
Trying to kill me.
Spoke about being single. Not once did I make it sexual. So why did he have to make it sexual? Could he not have answered me with the same intellect that I was providing him? There are many other segments in that podcast that when I said something, it was sexualized unnecessarily. Because he does not respect females, nor does he respect his guests. Next day, the producer called me. As you can see, it's a 30-minute call on how he apologizes and how he didn't expect it to turn out like this. And he's so sorry. And he wants to give me some type of justice, as he claims, to give me justice because he wants me back on the podcast because he really enjoys how I think. I told him that, you know what, if you don't change it, you choose it. He began to plead with me and ask me that how can he make it better? How can he give me the justice? I told him how can he let his hosts sexualize and disrespect his guests like that, even after you said that it won't be if I don't provide the substance and I stand my ground. I understand if I spoke about sexual things and they stemmed off of that would be on me, but I did not provide any substance to be sexualized like how I did. Mr. Producer then on the call told me how he knows how Sino is and all he thinks about is sexual things and he has no substance and he's shallow, but they are in the process of removing him. Honestly, I don't care about your internal affairs. I told you where I stand and you could not respect that. On this call, he also mentioned how he was speaking to his other host as the show was going on, that he likes this new girl and the hosts are providing shallow substance and they're not utilizing our intellect. He then began to beg and plead me to come back on the show again. I hate that the most evidence that I have of this whole experience was that one call. The call then ended with him saying, what can he do to bring me back on the pod? And I told him that, you know what, I'll think about it, but remove all the sexual content that was fished unnecessarily that I did not provide substance for. He agreed to this. I repeat, he agreed to this. But I guess Mr. Podcast of the Year only cares about views. I thought about this long and hard, and in the evening I just could not contain my thoughts. So I sent a long message and he sent a voice note again confirming that he will get it removed. He sent a voice note confirming that he would let his editors know because he isn't involved in editing, that he will tell them to remove it. But Mr. Pretentious only cares about views. And I'm sorry, a bystander is as bad as the perpetrator. Like I said, if you don't change it, you choose it. And you chose to leave that sexual content for views. When the podcast came out, I was in utter disbelief that none of the sexualized content was removed, but they were left for views. I spoke about logical things and gave them no substance for sexualized content, but Mr. Sino could not believe and comprehend that, so he fished for sexualized things in any small things I said. He also loved when Miss co-host Boosie threw jabs because it got them views. Open Chats shows zero support and respect for their guests. And best believe me, I didn't need their protection either. But I knew I was dealing with messy people that have the power to change the narrative like they did. Like I said in that message to the producer, I could have shut down that podcast. I really could have. But there was a point in time where I looked around and I saw someone fixing the camera, someone fixing the mic, someone fixing the lights. I realized that if I stopped this podcast, people's hard work would go in vain, and I'm not selfish. There were real laughs and intellectual conversations that Lifa and I had, and I appreciate him for that. But there were also fake laughs, so I can avoid the sexualized content they were fishing unnecessarily. I found some clips. You can see that there was a point in time where I just couldn't hide it anymore. But I tried to not look stuck up for the camera. Try to be professional and sit through it so I can just get it over and done with. And if those cameras were not rolling, Sino, I swear, stop sexualizing girls. It's not your platform. All he thinks about is sexualizing girls for his benefit. He thinks it's funny, and the producer, all his other friends don't check him, and he continues to do this. But nonetheless, I know when to be professional, and I was willing to endure all the sexualization provided our agreement that Percy was going to make sure all the sexualized content was removed. But I guess it wasn't enough for the views. And now that I'm filming this video, I'll address the biggest elephant in the room, and that's how the female host treated me. Honestly, she's young. I don't call it bullying. I don't care about her, and I will not give her the time of the day. But I know the cameras were rolling. I was not about to stoop to her level just to prove a point. Tried my best to back her up when the other male hosts were misunderstanding her, and I was trying to be a girlie's girl. But I guess that doesn't exist in this day and age. And trust me, if those cameras were not rolling, I would have called her into order. I don't play with my patience like that. But I know when and how to be professional. And I'm glad I did that and didn't jab at her at the end, because the comments really do speak for themselves. Then I realized, well, you're doing this all for camera, and I don't think male validation is that important for you to behave like you behaved with me. But like I said, I don't care. And also about that, I answered all the questions truthfully when they were asked. I didn't go on the podcast to show off. That's my normal. I'm so sorry that my normal isn't normal these days. The behavior that I choose isn't to be praised. I'm not asking to be praised. What I do and what I don't do, I'm not here to be praised. I wasn't there to convince the host of my behavior either. They asked a question and I answered. I really thought I was going to go there to ignite intellectual conversations, but I guess it was the wrong crowd and the wrong podcast. All they care about is false narratives, sexualizing their guests just for views. False narratives in the sense of I spoke about me being single for 2 years. Not once did I speak about celibacy. That is my personal life, not for you to discuss on camera. I spoke about being single. Even if I was celibate, it's got nothing to do with it because I did not give the substance for you to speak about it. And like I said, if I provided the sexual substance, please go ahead, discuss it. If I go ahead and give it to you, you can talk about it. But I did not give you anything, and it was fished hard. But if all the other female guests allow you to do that, cool. But not this one. How far are you willing to go to disrespect and sexualize your guests for views? Can you not have the same intellectual conversation with females and maintain the same views? Is that not possible? Producer Percy, he let this happen. He said he would remove it, but he didn't because he knew he needed it for views. I have nothing against Lefa. I hope he can stay true to himself. He is going to be such a good host, and I'm so excited for him. He has a good on and off switch. He knows when to say things and when not to say things. Even if they are sexual adult conversation, he doesn't sexualize them, but he knows how to bring it back and make it intellectual. There are innocent, hardworking people on that team that deserve that award. But for the rest, got that award for being shallow and messy. And if no one is going to say it, I will. They don't deserve that award that they are flaunting on camera. There are so many intellectual things that need to be discovered within and around us, and unfortunately not everyone can tap into that space or has the ability to. I know a lot of you will say, but you were laughing with them, taking photos, etc. Please understand that when you're in an uncomfortable space, you're skating on thin ice. Anything you do and say can be used against you, so you kind of have to tolerate it. And that's what I did. I am human, I make mistakes, and I take accountability for them. I should have greeted the producer and kept it moving the first night we met. Accountability is agreeing to be on that podcast. But accountability isn't agreeing to being disrespected and sexualized for views. It's absolutely disgusting, and open chats, you need to be ashamed of yourself. It's okay the funny sexual content sometimes, but if that's the only content you can pump out, what does that say about your character? It can't be your only source of intellect. That means current affairs will never be your source of bread.